I've taken inspiration from Hugh Richards' Veg in One Bed book here to create a plan for one of the beds in the middle of the garden that will be a polyculture bed with various vegetables succession planted. And I've drawn a planting plan for the garden. The plans are not set in stone because you can't predict how things will turn out, but it just gives an idea to get started really. And I've got some different things that I need to do to the soil to get it ready for all that. And I've got my greenhouse, I'll have some tomatoes and peppers. I'm going to be putting the cucumber outdoors, I think. And I've got space for spares at the back. This is north facing here, so this will be shaded here. So this is the sunnier part of the garden here, so where we have the main veg bed. So I'm going to do a tour of the garden at the end of January, starting with the strawberries. They do have quite a bit of moss and weeds that need clearing. Strawberries always have to be covered against the birds because they take them as soon as they're ripe. I've had the fig tree a few years. It's brown turkey. It came from Wilko. There are some buds you can see. I've not had any figs from it yet, but hopefully when it gets bigger it'll get some. The arch has a honeysuckle growing up the other side that I planted last year. I had sweet peas growing on it last year as well that did quite well. The strengthening of it with the extendable trellis has helped it survive all the storms that we've had this winter. There are some garlic cloves that I planted here in this bed last October that have sprouted. I think I can see 3 of them. I'm going to sow parsnips in here also. This is going to be the polyculture bed. I've prepared the ground for it already and put a tarp over it to warm the soil and suppress the weeds so that it's ready to use when the time comes. I've added some fertiliser. I expect I'll add compost to most of the beds in the garden before I plant in them. There is an apple tree in the centre of the garden which usually produces lots of green apples. I'm going to be sowing flower seeds underneath it, which I did last year as well, and we'll plant some onions, I think, round the edge in the ground, bordering the flowers. The other arch in the garden has a blackberry, a loganberry and a red currant bush, which are all taking support from the arch. These are spring greens. They're a variety called Durham Early. It's the first time I've grown spring greens. I got these seeds from eBay. The garden's a bit too small for bigger brassica plants, but these Durham Early are good size and miss the butterfly season because they're in the ground over winter. But you do have to protect against the pigeons because we get a few of those. This bed's going to have some parsnips sown in it. There's a slug trap made of a jam jar which I put in to attract the slugs away from the plants. It has lager in it which they like, and it seems to work really well. This is the bed that the cucumbers are going to go in. It had leeks in over the winter which have now been harvested. There is a rose in the corner and some parsley. I've trained an apple tree against the fence. This apple tree's a few years old. I think it came from Lidl. The variety of this apple is Ida Red. I used to have 2 blueberry plants, but one died last year, so I might try to propagate the remaining one this year. There are some raspberry canes around the water butt. The rose plant is from the 1950s. It produces red flowers. It was planted by my grandparents, I think when they moved into the house. I think I'll put some climbing beans into this space on a wigwam or obelisk. The pond was dug last year. The surrounding stones have fallen into it, and I think I might have to put some more stones around the edge because you can see the lining. It has a water lily in the middle, and it's got yellow flag iris at the edge among some of the plants that also pond plants as well. The bed at the back of the garden is north facing and therefore doesn't get as much sun as the rest of the garden. There's a gooseberry bush, and I'm going to be planting kale and any spare leafy plants that can tolerate some shade. The hawthorn tree has a bird box that our son made. In the corner are the strawberries in pots that I took from the runners last year. And the other bed to the left has Swiss chard in, which should bounce back in spring. Some spring bulbs are starting to appear, which you can see amongst the strawberries. The lavender is another old plant. It was planted by my grandmother. It's got really big now. This oregano plant that was planted last year smells really good. There's some spinach beet in this other bed. I'll take the plants out later in the year to transplant summer squash. There's another gooseberry plant here and a blackcurrant. Inside the greenhouse there's some kale and cavolo nero, more spinach beet, some parsley, mint. The grapevine was planted in the container last year and is trained down one side of the greenhouse. It's a black grape variety that came from Asda called Dornfelder. I'm looking forward to the first fruit from it. There's also spinach, carrots, corn salad and a salad bowl lettuce which needs to be re-sown. There are a few varieties of mint. One came through the fence from next door and I propagated it. The mint will go back outside in spring. Got my onion seeds here. This one's Ailsa Craig and this one's Red Brunswick. This one is from last year, so just thought I'd try that and see if it comes up. This one I just bought last week. Sowed 5 days ago and it's appearing already, which is incredible because it's supposed to be about 2 to 3 weeks it would normally take, so that's quite exciting. Hopefully the rest of them will come up alright as well. So when these have all germinated a bit more, I'll put them in a place with a bit more light so they don't get too spindly.